Hello and welcome to our demo day for our December 2021 cohort. December, I remember your first day with all your excitement and curiosity about what your time here at Makers would bring. That first week, there were some things you asked of each other. Boosting each other if anyone's feeling low. Being honest in your feedback while remaining respectful. Talking things through so that everyone's on the same page and everyone understands what's going on. I think you've done a really great job of all of these, and I hope you agree. Since then, I've worked with all of you for, maybe half the course. I'm delighted to know you all and to have been part of your journey here at Makers. You've come a really long way in the last 16 weeks here at Makers, and I'm really proud of what you've all accomplished and how you've grown. With that, let's move on with what's going to happen this evening. We have a short intro and that bit's nearly done. We then will have some presentations where I will ask some questions of the teams. And then we will have a short Q&A at the end for any questions you in the audience have about Makers and the course. And with that, let the presentations roll. Over to you, Team Tidbits.
Thank you, Alex, for that. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We are Team Tidbits. The team is made up of Isabella, Jason, Josh, Matt, Wakas, and myself. Each member of the team will walk you through a segment of the project, such as how to use the app, the technologies we used, how we work together as a team, and the challenge that we faced. But first, I'd like to start by introducing the app Tidbits. So what is Tidbits? Tidbits is a habit building application that helps you build small habits that would have a big impact on your life over time. We decided to build this application because we liked the idea of building something that helped people become their better selves. The app gives users the options to either create their own habits or select from one of our pre-made habits. And now I'll pass on to Isabella and Josh, who will show us a demo of the application.
What are you planning to do today? Change your habits one step at a time? Come to register with our Tidbits app. I'm registering as a new user. The homepage is made out of two main sections. On the left, I have options where I can make a tidbit, where I can add my own task, grab a tidbit, where there is a very long list of tasks to choose from, and tidbit overview. Josh will explain both functionalities later on. On the main section of the page, I have two panels. Tidbits for today, which holds the tasks that I need to complete that day, and completed tidbits for today, made out of my completed tasks. Let's say I want to build a new habit. I want to dance more. I add how many times I want to repeat this task? 10 times a day. Also, for how many days I want to repeat it in a row? 1 day. As you can see, this task now appears in the middle of my tidbits for today. I want also sing in the shower once a week. And every time I complete my task, I click the plus button. It increments the count. Once I hit my target, task moves to the completed side. Overnight, the tasks that I want them to be repeated for several days will be put back into the tidbits for today section. I am signing out of this account. Josh is signing in as an existing user. Over to you, Josh.
Thanks for that, Isabella. So this is my account. I've been using it for a couple of days. It's quite similar to Isabella's, except I don't sing in the shower, and dancing isn't really a priority for me. So what we wanted to do was go to that grab a tidbit section here so I can explain that. And when we were creating this next part, we wanted users to be able to select from pre-created tasks. Think of this as like a new habit that might inspire a user, which I can copy and paste into my daily life. Let me show you an example. As a user, if I want to improve on reading more on like politics, I can click that add button. And what this would do is each day it would generate 2 news articles on politics, something that can help me brush up on current news. Let's say I'm someone who struggles with finding healthy food options instead. I can add this to my tidbits. There we go. And it's going to generate and show me 5 different healthy food options per day. And hopefully one of them inspires me for dinner. I can click that braised baby bok choy, take a look at it, and maybe I'll cook that, not enough for dinner, but maybe for lunch. As I continue through my day and check off things I've completed, let's say I want to see a high level overview. Oh, actually, no, I might go check out a motivational podcast as well, which is there, with a couple of Spotify podcasts. Let's say I do want to see a high level overview instead. I click here, and this brings me to my statistics page. What it's going to do is give me a high level overview of what I've done well in, which habits I'm lagging, and how I can improve on. So obviously, I need to improve on reading more politics. This part ends the demo section. Next, I'll pass it on to Jason, who will go into detail on why we chose a particular stack to work on.
Thanks, Josh. So when we were deciding on the technologies to use in our app, we all wanted to pick technologies that we hadn't used before, with React being at the center of the choice we made. With this being the case, we all agreed that the MERN stack would offer us a good opportunity for learning. The MERN stack uses MongoDB as the database, Express and Node for the server side, and React for the client side. We also decided to keep our client and server side separate. And so for deployment, we use Netlify for the front end and Heroku for the back end. Other technologies we used include GitHub and GitHub Actions, Postman, and Bootstrap and CSS for styling. I'll pass it over to Matt now, who's going to talk to you about our project process.
Thanks. So we worked together well as a team. Each day would start with a 5-minute brainstorm and putting notes down on the board. This could be of any nature, technical or how is someone feeling. Then each of us would take a minute and discuss the notes in a stand-up. Afterwards, we would do demos of any codes in changes in code. We would kind of try and catch each other up. Then we also use Jira board, and this was for everyone to have specific responsibility. We would keep our user stories there and general tasks. The main challenge of the project was to come up with a cohesive idea. We took quite a lot of time to plan things out. This resulted in less confusion and improved productivity later on. We used new technologies, so we allowed each other to take our time out, learn something, and then implement it later on. We were able to disagree, reach a consensus through talking things through, and if someone had a strong preference, we would give it their way. And that sums it up. Thank you for listening. You can have a look at our app by going to the tinyurl.com/tidbits app.
All right. Thank you, Team Tidbits. Well, we won't take questions from the audience. I do actually have a question for you, and I'd really like to know, out of all of your goals, which one do you feel you managed the best?
I think it will be the planning out of the whole app. It was quite a challenge to plan something in such a short period of time. And I think our plan was very meticulous, and this allowed us to produce something I'm quite happy with.
Yeah, for me it was learning some new technology. So MERN stack, which none of us had any experience in, except with Node. We picked that up within 2 weeks, which was kind of crazy.
And for me, it was that we actually like working with each other more as the day went by.
All right.
I agree.
I think, for me, I would just say, like, just seeing the process of an application from start to finish, and actually seeing something that we've built come to life, our ideas come to life.
Yeah, working together in this team, that was a great experience for me. I really enjoyed that, and the learning as well of the MERN stack. It's a bonus.
Okay. Thank you once again, Team Tidbits. Without further ado, let's move along to our next team for this evening. I'd like to introduce Team Pair Pro.
Hello, we're Pair Pro. Our very good looking team is made up of Sophie, Kat, Vanessa, myself, and Chisamwe. For most of the last 3 months, we've spent much of the day pair programming. For those not in the know, that's working in twos on coding problems or projects. There were some of us, me, who were filled with existential dread at the thought of coding in front of another stranger. But within a few weeks of pair programming, we'd all grown massively in skills and in confidence. And pair programming has been instrumental in that. The projects that you see today wouldn't have come together anywhere near as well if we hadn't spent all that time pairing. Not everyone has the opportunity to join a 3-month assault on the cerebrum that has been our maker's journey, so we wanted to take the benefits of pair programming to them, so that both budding and experienced programmers worldwide can build not only their coding skills, but also their soft skills and their networks. Now here is Vanessa to demonstrate the site.
Thanks, Hannah. I'll walk you through the demo of our app. So this is our homepage. At the bottom of the homepage, you can find some additional information of why you should use Pair Pro. Then you can click on sign up, which takes you to the registration page and to the form. So you can put in your name, email address, password, confirm the password, select the languages that you're currently learning. You can put in a bit about yourself in the bio field. Then you can also include your GitHub username and also select a profile picture. When you join, you can actually go to My Profile and see whether all the information has been stored correctly. So there you can see JavaScript and Ruby and the little bio that you wrote about yourself. So these are all the members that are currently using Pair Pro. So you can see all their bios, the languages, and also their GitHub accounts. So let's say you want to filter them by the languages that they're currently using. These are all the people that know how to use JavaScript. And if you're interested in a particular person, you can also go to their GitHub link. You can see, for example, this person knows JavaScript, and you can chat to them as well. We put the windows side by side so you can actually see that this is an instantaneous chat app. So Vincent is writing on the left-hand side to Vanessa, and Vanessa is replying to, yeah. And this is just a small demo so you can actually see that we built this real-time app in there. You don't have to reload the page for the messages to come through. Yeah, and then you can log out, which takes you back to the homepage. That was our little demo, and I'll hand it over to Kat, who will be talking about working practices and planning.
Thanks, Vanessa. So in terms of our working practices, we generally had 3 meetings for code reviews a day, and we'd update each other on the progress we've made with our features we were all working on. We also made sure we got together to celebrate any wins made by different pairs or individuals through the team. And in terms of tools, we use Jira, which is a planning tool for tracking, prioritizing and allocating our tasks out. And we also had a daily Figma board for our thoughts, reflections and ideas. You can see from that screenshot, it's kind of like a digital pin board. In terms of planning, we took the first day for planning what features the Pair Pro website would need, deciding which would make up our minimal viable product and which would be more nice to have features that we would implement if we had time. Also during planning, we drew up some mock-ups, so we all had an idea of what roughly the website would look like and what pages we would need. And we also agreed together on what combination of technologies we were going to use. Luckily, we were all agreed unanimously on this, as we were keen to learn React and how this worked in combination with MongoDB, Express, and Node. And now I'll hand you over to Sophie.
Thanks, Kat. As Kat said, we were all very keen to learn some new technologies, and we decided to use the popular MERN stack. In terms of things that were new to us, this was using MongoDB for the databases and using React for the front end to build our user interface. I think we all found getting to grips with React was a bit of a steep learning curve in the beginning. Using React also made following some of the processes we had been practicing, such as test-driven development, always testing first, more difficult. But we got to grips with testing using the React testing library and using Cypress for our end-to-end testing. Beginning our process with the authorization and the chat feature meant we had quite the initial challenge with a lot of new information to assimilate. So we really made sure to share all the new things we were learning with each other along the way. As we persevered and we became more comfortable with the foundational concepts of React, we became much swifter and progress really accelerated for us. And on that, I'll pass over to Chisanwe.
Cheers, Sophie. So I'm just going to talk about what went well. Coming into this project, we were honestly spoiled for choice in terms of tech solutions. One might anticipate there will be conflicting ideas in this area, but fortunately, we were able to reach an agreement in the tech stack without any real difficulties. Building off the back of our initial success, we achieved the goal of hitting our MVP in our first sprint. This gave us the platform to further develop some nice-to-have features in our web application. The atmosphere amongst the group was very inclusive and encouraging, which made for an optimal working environment. Alongside our material objectives, efficiency is something we were very concerned with. A project that would require us to learn multiple tech stacks was quite a daunting prospect, yet we successfully delivered our main tickets in both sprints. A consistent theme throughout the course, exemplified by this project, is the interaction with new technologies and the acquisition of skills required to utilize them. The best demonstration of this being our integration of our chat feature. We learned what technologies would be required for an interactive application, Socket.io being essential. And from this, I'm pleased to say we were able to deliver a fully integrated chat function to our app. In closing, on a more personal note, I got to work with some really highly skilled developers and most importantly, some really good people. So I just wanted to take a time out to say thank you to them and thank you to Makers as a whole for the opportunity. That brings us to the end of our presentation, and if there are any questions, please ask.
All right. Thank you, Team Pair Pro. As I said earlier, we won't be taking questions from the audience, but I do have a question for you. I'd like to know, what was your highlight from the last 2 weeks?
Easily working with these guys. So I just wanted to jump in and say that quickly. I mean, I don't know how I was so fortunate to work with so many, with the group of really skilled and really down to earth people that were really supportive. And yeah, the whole experience working with these guys was great.
Yeah, I can only echo what Chis said. Working with the team for the 2 weeks has been a blessing and it was amazing. And also, I think it was a big hooray moment when we realized that our real-time chat was working without refreshing. So that was definitely a highlight for all of us, I think.
All right. Thank you once again, Team Pair Pro. Without any further ado, let's move along to our next team. Our next team is Team Lonely Hearts Club. The floor is yours, so take it away.
Hi, we're the Lonely Hearts Club, comprised of Anthony Chaplin, Ben Coyne, Fran Pottinger Marquez, Raven Reynolds Sears, Tyrone Williams, and me, Victoria Black. We are 6 developers who, after 12 weeks of learning at Makers, wanted to take on the challenge of making a game to push us further, and it pushed us further than we expected. We've collectively made a game that's challenging, quirky, and fun, called A Pinkman's Journey, a top-down RPG featuring our protagonist Pinkman, who lives alone on a space station, and he's been left a treasure hunt to solve to keep him happy and active. And now I'll pass over to Anthony, who's going to take you through the gameplay.
Thank you, Victoria. So as you'll see in a second, we will have both an introduction and an instruction scene, which you can move with a mouse click. The clues will appear on the UI at the bottom, and you can only find the next clue once the previous clue has been found in order to prevent the player from cheating. We added many obstacles to the player, such as the wormhole you're about to see, which will move the player to a random location on the map, and it also appears on the UI below. There's obstacles such as doors, which are smaller than normal, so you have to find an item on the UI, on the map, apologies, that lets you shrink down and get you through that particular obstacle. We have a timer, which gives a failure state to the player, and if they don't beat the game within that time, then they will move to the defeat screen, and then they can move back to the main screen again with a click. In a moment, you're about to see the Travelator, which is another feature we implemented to allow players to move very quickly through one section of the map. And finally, once you find the final clue, you'll move to the victory screen, as you're about to see. And I'll pass it over to Fran to tell you about our tech stack.
Thanks, Anthony. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the technologies we used in this project. So as the main language, we chose to use JavaScript. So for our backend, we ended up using Node.js. For our routing, using Express. And for our front end / the actual game, we used a game engine called Phaser. It's a really fun engine, so if anyone out there is interested into making their own games, I would definitely say try that out. We use Jest as a test framework for our tests. We deployed our game with Heroku, and we use GitHub Actions as a CI/CD pipeline. And it's worth mentioning that we do have a database working in the background, in the back end. Even though the game doesn't have any features that actually use that, we do have it running. So it's worth mentioning because it's quite handy to have that running in case we want to add a feature that uses a database in the future. Next slide, please. So just talking about our flow, and we've basically for the first 2 days, it was all about planning. We decided what the MVP would be. So the MVP is the minimum viable product. So we decided we literally just wanted to make a character walk on a screen by the press of a button, which for us was something crazy. None of us have ever done that before. So we went off on pair programming every day. We would have stand-ups in the morning. We would have meetings in the evenings, retros, and every now and again checking on each other, see if everyone's feeling well. We used Trello boards to keep track on what everyone was doing. And once we achieved our MVP, in a couple of days, we went on developing the game. Just talking about the actual sort of like game development sides, because to game development, to actually bring the product to life, you gotta have like things like storytelling and design and art, which is not quite programming. So we try to not focus on that too much, but at the same time, we also had a lot of fun doing that. So we sort of started just getting things from open source websites on the internet that would provide these things for free for us. And then we kind of used them as an inspiration to make our own. So on our, you can see what's like sort of a comparison of inspiration sprites and things that we did. We also had original music, we had some sound effects, so we had a lot of fun playing with that as well. Next slide, please. This is just a little bit of the map progression. We started, our first actual map was the one on the top left of the screen. It was a quite small map with a random sprites yellow guy from the internet that we used to animate and just walk around. We were super happy with that, but once we were more confident with our gaming development skills, we went on and developed a more fully realized map that you can see on the right, with loads of rooms and fully populated with different things going on. And we were really proud of that. I'll pass it on to Tyrone that will talk about a few of the troubles we had.
Hey everyone. So some of the problems we had with the project, starting from the first days, we needed to decide what language we were going to use. We went with JavaScript. Then we needed to decide whether we were going to use vanilla JavaScript or a game engine. We broke up into 3 separate teams testing out different game engines, Pixie.js versus Phaser, and a few others, and eventually decided on Phaser. We had to scale down the game quite a lot from what we anticipated. We had many more ambitions for it, multiplayer, different levels, but due to time constraints, we had to put that on the back burner. But the game itself does have a lot of room for expansion. One of the, I'd say maybe disadvantages of choosing our game engine was that it was very difficult to test with. We had to isolate our logic from the game engine. It was difficult to create a mock for Phaser, just little issues that we discovered along the way. But other than that, it was a great, fun project, and I'll pass it on to Ben.
Thank you, Tyrone. I'm just going to talk about the project highlights. So probably the number one highlight would have been that we took on the challenge of learning a pretty sophisticated game engine in just 2 weeks. We all knew we wanted to do JavaScript and develop our skills there, but we wanted to take on this additional challenge. It meant that we were having to overcome brand new hurdles very, very quickly and react to them. But with a lot of support from the team, we all got through this. And on that note, another big highlight was our team programming ethos. We would have meetings at least twice a day, in which the morning meetings would consist of us going over our plans for the entire day, making sure everybody was kind of on board with what the end goal is in the big picture, taking cards and reassigning them to various pairs, and checking in with each other as a general team. And what I can certainly say is, if we think back to our main makers' goals, that are we having fun? We had a lot of fun doing this. And are we learning? Yes, we learned a load in this project. If you would like to try out our game, you can follow our links. And if you'd like to see the repo, you can go onto our GitHub. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Team Lonely Hearts Club. I'm hoping you'll be willing to answer a little question from me. I'd like to know what you're most proud of as a team.
I would love to answer that if that's okay. And I hope that my internet connection is just all right for this. But most proud of as a team, I would say the relationships that we've built and how well we've also built on our skills, our knowledge, how well we work together. It's been an incredible project. It's been so much fun.
All right. Thank you once again, Team Lonely Hearts Club. Just as a quick reminder for those of you in the audience, we will have a short Q&A after these presentations to answer any questions you have about makers and about the course. With that reminder out of the way, let's move on to our next team of tonight. It is Team Wonderpost.
Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can see my screen. Oh, can you see my screen?
Unfortunately, we can't see your screen just yet. Would you like to retry sharing your screen?
Yeah.
There we go. We've got it.
Hi, everyone. We're Team Wonderpost. Apologies for that. The team consists of Chris, myself, Robin, Sahil, and Samir. Our current project is an offshoot of our original idea, which was a travel planner that recommends and plans trips for users based on their preferred budget and travel dates. But we chose to pivot and reimagine our idea after 4 days, which Samir will elaborate on later. We chose to build a travel log similar to sort of like a travel diary that allows users to record and share their travel experiences with others. And the benefit of this is that it leaves room for us to actually incorporate our original idea into this project at a later stage when we want to. So just a brief overview of what our application actually does. Users will be able to create their own accounts. They can add information about themselves, and they're also able to post their favorite travel highlights and share their travel experiences. I'll now pass it on to Chris, who'll run through the demo.
Thank you, Joy. Okay, let's show you how our app works. So this is our landing page, the page that you'll see when you go to our app. And it basically shows you posts about different location destinations from different users. And as you hover over the post, you can click on the post that you feel that you are interested in. And you are going to see the post, a little bit about the person who wrote it, which cities were visited. If you feel like you would like to write a post yourself, we're going to ask you to register or log in. And once you do that, you'll be able to write the post. You can give it a title. You can tag the cities that you have visited and tell us a little bit about your trip. You can also add a picture of your trip. And once you publish it, it's going to be on the homepage. You can go ahead and look at the post. And since it's your own post, you're going to be able to update it if you feel like you have left anything to write on your original post. You can also go to your profile where you can tell all of the other users a little bit about yourself. You can also change your profile picture, your username, your email, your password. And it's also important that you can also delete your account. Another interesting feature is that you can search for specific locations. So let's say you're interested in London, you search for London, you're going to see all of the posts about London specifically. And I will say that's about it. You can also log out and you'll be taken to the homepage again. I'm going to pass it to Robin, that is going to talk a little bit about what technologies we have used in our project. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we decided to use Stack, which are Node and Express for server side, MongoDB for database, and React for front end. We also built our project on Heroku and used GitHub Actions and Postman to test our server-side code, if we're getting correct data or not. And also, yeah, we used Jira to be organized and share ticket. And also we contact with each other, of course, from Slack and Zoom. Thank you, and I'm passing to Samir.
Thanks, Robin. I'm just going to take you guys through how we organised ourselves as a team. So we had some initial brainstorming sessions and some research sessions where we could look at the different technologies that we wanted to use. We also defined an MVP, and like Robin mentioned, we used Jira to build out those user stories and assign tickets. In terms of the day-to-day, we had some daily stand-ups and daily retros. We also had a rotating Scrum Master. And in order to get through any kind of coding obstacles, we stuck to kind of pair programming principles. In terms of our learning journey, so as Joy mentioned earlier, unfortunately, we had to redefine our project. That was mainly because an external API that we wanted to use, we couldn't get our accounts or authenticated in time. So that did mean we had to redefine our MVP. We also had some resource constraints due to a few team member absences over the final project. In terms of our learning journey, we also got to use a new tech stack, and there's definitely a learning curve for that. But I think we all enjoyed the learning process. I'm going to hand over to Sahil, who's going to talk us through some future features.
Thanks, Samir.
So yes, I am Sahil, and we have some great hopes for where we might be able to take this in the future. As Samir mentioned, we had some issues getting authenticated with the main travel API we were hoping to use. It's a great and interesting company called Amadeus, and their API actually powers Booking.com and Expedia and a whole bunch of travel websites you might actually use. So in the future, we're thinking about having on the blog features whereby you can see travel recommendations. So if you have a short span of time that your boss tells you can only go on holiday from Monday to Thursday on this week, and you only have a fixed budget, maybe the blog could actually give you recommendations live as to places you can visit. If and when you book your trip, maybe another feature on the blog would actually kind of give you a list, sort of TripAdvisor style, of kind of the best attractions in the place you're visiting. And then, should you decide to actually visit some of those places, maybe the blog could actually help you with doing the bookings directly. So we think those are all potentially exciting directions to take this project. And with that, we will open it up to questions.
All right. Thank you, Team Wonderpost. I would really like to know, what do you feel is the most important thing that you have learned in this project?
I think from my perspective, it's definitely being able to accept kind of challenges and things that don't quite go to plan, and being able to pull together as a team and work around them.
All right.
I would second that. I think planning these things is harder than some people think at the outset. You can never prepare too much for some of these things.
Okay. Thank you once again, Team Wonderpost. Let's move along to our next team for this evening. Team I'm a Coder, Get Me Out of Here.
Hi, Alex. Yeah, thank you very much for that. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to I'm a Coder, Get Me Out of Here. This project was created by Alex, Esther, myself, Hayden, Kieran, and Saad. And a little bit about our project. As a team, we were tasked essentially to create a game that offered a player coding-based questions with the overall arching purpose of making it fun, interactive, and educational. And it's aimed at primarily sort of supporting new developers or junior developers with kind of simple to basic randomized coding questions. Our overall theme was kind of a spy MI5 theme. And essentially our backstory is our character wakes up after a heavy night out with their colleagues, only to find themselves locked in a basement. So the escape is on. So just to run through our tech stack, we used Python, primarily using the Pygame module, Pygame GUI, tiled editor, GitHub CI, and Heroku for our deployment. And essentially for our first task as a team, we kind of really just needed to sort of flesh out an MVP and decide on technology that we would use in terms to achieve our goals. We created a Slack channel and Trello board quite early on, which we used to sort of collate all our thoughts, research, and documents that we sort of found throughout the 2-week project. And we also used a Figma board to jot our ideas down daily that, everybody would sort of refer to. And our day was primarily structured through a morning kickoff and afternoon retro. However, communication lines were open throughout the day, so anybody could sort of just jump in, and ask questions or get involved. And that's it really in terms of introduction and planning. I'll pass you on to Hayden to show you guys a bit of a demo.
Yeah, thank you, Elliot. So as you open up the game, you're welcomed with a mission brief, and should you choose to accept that mission, you're informed that you need to navigate through the map, answering questions that are Python related on the terminals in order to decipher an anagram at the top of the screen. The character moves around the map using the arrow keys, and you interact with each terminal using the spacebar. The questions are alternated, so no one game's the same, and the anagrams also the same. You'll notice in the first question, I actually get the question wrong. So instead of revealing a letter at the top, it reveals a question mark, and you can only answer one question once. You're not allowed multiple goes at the same question. You can see as the character moves around that he starts bumping into stuff, and we've set it up so that you can't run through everything. There's obstacles in the way and statues. In this question, I get the correct answer, so it reveals the letter A at the top. And it's worth noting at this point that when you're actually playing the game on the game client, there is game sound, so you'd be serenaded at this point to the sound of Mission Impossible. And also another thing worth noting is as I go to answer this third question in the top left-hand side of the question box, we've named each question or each terminal after a member of the team. So this is Esther's PC. And by getting this question correct, I've unlocked the letter K. I now make my way back to the gate at the top and guess the anagram for the purpose of the video. In this case, it's makers. I somehow get it correct, and no spy game would be complete without a martini glass at the top. So I'm now going to pass you over to Alex, and he's going to speak in a bit more detail about some of the features of our game.
So I'll be briefly talking about movement and animations. So there's a loop that is constantly playing in the background that checks for events, different clicks for pop-ups, and specifically the arrow keys for the movement. So when an arrow key is pressed, the character moves in that direction, and that also triggers a logic statement to run an animation loop. And the animations are structured through a series of about 3 to 5 images that kind of repeat through a small loop in themselves, and that gives the feel for the user like the character is moving and makes the experience more immersive. There's also an idle animation as the character is left alone, just to kind of give you the idea that the game is still running. And then at the very end, he takes his final martini form. I'll hand you over to Kieran now, who will speak about the tiling and collisions.
So we created a tile map to populate the background with objects that the player could interact with. And then we began implementing collision detection, which sets specific actions when the player bumps into specific objects. This turned out to be incredibly challenging because we realized after a few days that we were trying to implement it on a background that had simply too many objects for us to understand what was going wrong and debug properly. We got it working when we simplified the background, and then after we got it working, we were able to build back in the objects. I'll pass you over to Esther now.
I'm going to speak about Pygame GUI, which is a module that's used with Pygame, and that was a very integral part of our development as we use pop-up windows throughout the game to deliver the narrative as well as the questions that the player answers. It provides the commands and the parameters to create and stylize the pop-up windows and buttons, which are triggered by the key presses and events. Little details such as the typing input of the questions and the color change and the hovering of the buttons are some of the customizations that can be done. And integrating the graphical elements with the game code was a challenge, but seeing the tiled background come together with the animated character and then integrating the gameplay on top of that was just really satisfying to see that all come together. I'll now pass you on to Saad to discuss the overall successes of our project.
Thank you for that, Esther. So I just want to talk about some of our successes and achievements. So we had a plan. That we'd set out to sort of achieve. The main one being obviously having a functioning game, which, as you can see, we've achieved. Implementing a CI/CD pipeline, and so we did that using GitHub Actions. Having a basic testing framework, and so we did manage that also. Resolving any major bugs, as Kieran alluded to, we did have quite a few issues with the collisions, and there were still some issues, but with a bit more time, I think we would have had it completely running. And adjusting to obstacles, yeah, so that's part of the game map. In terms of what we could have done better, so our learnings, so new language challenges. The language that we chose to code in was Python and And so it was a Python based game, and all the questions were based around Python. And so one of our core, or one of the ways we wanted to improve on it was to introduce a new language, because so then you could learn using Ruby or something else. We wanted to improve on some of the game mechanics, so that would include level design, adding new maps, adding new sprites, or adding NPCs. Relevant current resources. So our resources for using Pygame, which was our game engine at the time, was actually down. So we didn't have much access to all of the official documentation. So we had to make do using Google. Having a simple MVP, this was actually really important because we tried to implement too much at one time, and it didn't go well for us because it complicates too many things. So we took a more iterative approach to our coding, and we managed to achieve our MVP shortly after. And communicating more regularly. We did have a stand-up every morning, and we had a retro every afternoon, and we had meetings throughout, but we found it was always important to keep communication lines open. And that's it from me. So thank you for listening, guys, and we'll take any questions.
All right. Thank you once again, team I'm a Coder, get me out of here. I do have a question for you, and I'd really like to know what you feel the single best thing you did in your project was.
Yeah, I don't mind taking this. I think overall, it was actually getting the project over the line. I know a couple of the guys have spoken about some of the problems that we faced, and Sarge briefly mentioned about the fact that the actual module that we used, which was called Pygame, is actually partially made by people that are currently involved with world events. So their website, in an act of solidarity, was unavailable for a majority of this project that we done. So not only were we coding in a new stack, but also with limited resources. So I think just getting the project to where it is now and over the line is something that we can all be proud of as a team. So yeah, well done, everyone.
All right. Thank you again to Team I'm a Coder, get me out of here. And thank you once again to December 21. Cohort, feel absolutely free to drop off at this point as we move into the Q&A section of this evening.
Thanks very much, Alex, for that. It was really great to, and thank you everyone as well. It was really nice to see all your projects. Like, I always get really excited to see what everyone came up with in 2 weeks. It's very, very impressive. So yeah, like you said, just drop off and relax, have a drink, take a nap. You deserve it. So for the rest of the people here, for the next 30 minutes, like Alex said, me, him and Inej, who's our course sales manager, will be answering some questions that you might have about makers in the course. And yeah, so just please pop it in the Q&A box if you have one, and we'll try to answer the best we can for you. I'm going to first just talk through a few dates that we have, just in case we don't have any questions yet. I'll just quickly check if we have some so far. Yeah.
I'm not seeing any questions so far, so yes.
Yeah, I'll just go through that. Okay, so for a couple of dates we have for the new cohort starting, I'll just go through the pre-course dates. So the next one is on the 21st of March, which is hybrid, and then the next online delivery is the 19th of April, and then online, and then the next hybrid one is after that is the 16th of May. So that is when the next course dates are, and they're all on our website as well. So you can check that out there too.
Alrighty. I'm still not seeing any questions in the Q&A box. So maybe it's worth giving a little bit of an overview of the course and what we cover in the course. Would that be a help? Okay.
Let's do that.
So the Makers course is 16 weeks. The first 4 weeks are what we call the pre-course, where you'll be learning basic Ruby syntax, which really is basic programming syntax. After that, we move into the full-time course where you won't be able to fit it around other obligations really. And we expect you to be doing the course from about 9 in the morning to 6 in the evening, every day, Monday to Friday. And there's a little bit of weekend work, but that's optional. So during the course, we'll spend the first 4 weeks of the full-time course, so that's weeks 5 through 8, on basic programming concepts from pair programming to object-oriented programming, working with the web and working with databases. After that, there is a week on teamwork where you will build in a team a clone of Airbnb. And moving on from that, we learn JavaScript as a vehicle for learning a new language. After that, we've got 5 weeks remaining to talk through. So we've got 2 more weeks of building a project in a group. You'll then have Code Quality Week, where we look at how to work on tech tests and how to improve the quality of your code. And then the final 2 weeks of the full-time course is Final Projects, where you will build a project which has been decided and created by your cohort. And you've seen 5 examples of that today.
Okay, thanks very much for telling everyone that, Alex. We've got a question just now. Sarah says, very interested to know what challenges the Makers team have witnessed / observed with everything being far more remote since COVID, compared how to Makers used to run in-house. I don't know if we have any students still in, but is this like for, I don't know if this is for, oh no, this is about us, sorry, yeah. I mean, Alex, this is probably a question for you. How do you find the students have handled remote instead of being in all the time?
So there's going to be a little bit of a limit to how much of this I can answer, because I actually joined Makers about a year ago. So I didn't see Makers fully on site. I will say that we've had a remote course for actually quite a long time now. It's not like in COVID times, we suddenly had to come up with a way of doing the course remotely. We were already delivering the course remotely. I think it can be quite different with the course being in person versus remote. And if you're interested in person, you should definitely ask about our hybrid courses. I think in person, you get a sense of energy in the room, which you might not get the same sort of energy in the room remotely. But at the same time, I think remotely can be a lot more quiet and chilled and let you focus a bit better, honestly.
I think what's good to add there as well, and like, yeah, exactly what you said, Alex, it's better if you've, you know, just want a relaxing environment, but also a lot of companies are actually want their developers to be remote, fully remote. So it's possible that it could work in your benefit for when you actually want to go and when you actually go and apply for jobs, that you know how to do the work independently and work in teams that you have to just correspond online. So I think that might be, there's a slight benefit as well.
I can add something here as well, like specifically to each person, it depends on how every single one of us learns. And if you think that you would be a person that would definitely benefit from being in the room and would learn so much better in there, definitely look at the hybrid courses. But if you think like you'll do just fine on a remote delivery as well, and you have no problem of maybe not having that social contact, we can guarantee that we have channels open for support if people need it. And yeah, it works the same way as with hybrid, and we'll be learning the same things as well. So it just really depends on how do you prefer to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
And either way, you have regular contact throughout the course with a coach. So you definitely have access to coaches.
Oh, I've got a couple more pop up. Laura says, what would your advice be on preparing for the application process? I feel like, and this is you.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, definitely research makers, research what we do and what are our aims as well. Think about, why do you like code? Why do you want to join with makers, and will be a good fit for you as you for us and us for you. Get under the skin of maybe Ruby on Code Academy, start looking at that. Do a couple of katas for play on Code Wars, because this will be part of your application process. So if you start looking at it early, it won't hurt you at all. So do get the resources, try to see if you enjoy it also. Do you have fun with it? And yeah, then just fill out their application form and you're up and running.
Thanks.
I'd like to, if I may, I'd like to add to that, which is we run Code Accelerator events as well. And coming along to one of those will be a great opportunity, once you've done some basics maybe, to get a bit of pair programming experience and meet other people who are considering coming to Makers.
Yeah, just on top of that as well, Alex, after this, I'll send an email with the Code Accelerator link if you want to join. It's on the 30th of March. I think it's really well worth going to, definitely. Okay, so next one, Aisha, how do you ensure that students are grasping all the topics that are being taught? Do they have to complete regular assessments?
That's definitely a question for me. Well, Makers is not really like a university. We're not going to bundle some scores together and give you a grade at the end. Your coaches will be paying attention to your progress. There's a number of ways that we assess our students. One of those ways is using the weekend challenges, which is a challenge that's set every weekend for the first 6 weeks of the course. And I think there might be one more after that. So those challenges, you can always get a review from a coach, but we will also be paying attention to how you're doing in other ways as well, with regular workshops where we will see your work, and with plenty of opportunities for you to get feedback, not only from coaches, but also from your peers.
Thank you. Next question from Ed. And advice for the interview, please. Yeah, and Ed, answer this one.
Sure. Yeah, don't be nervous. No need for that. No need for nerves. Basically, the selection coach will just like see if how were your scores on Code Academy, Code Wars, and your Code Bite Challenge. And if he thinks that maybe something he's not sure about, he'll ask you, and what was your thought process and all of that. And yeah, apart from that, is literally just a nice chat with them to see like if you're a good fit for Makers, if you're ready to go, how your coding skills, and that's all. No trick questions, no tech assessment on any of this. Is literally just a nice chat.
Yeah, I think, yeah, as well, I think, you know, because the course is so quite an intense course, we want to make sure that it's right for you as much as you want to make sure it's right for yourself, you know. So yeah, like Anish says, it's very, very chilled. Do you do yoga sessions? They've asked. Yes, we do on a Wednesday morning. I believe still online. I hope we're bringing it back into the office. Fingers crossed, I think, but we're definitely doing them every Wednesday, yeah. So everyone's got access to those.
We also, on a similar vein, we have meditation sessions every morning. That's at 9 o'clock every morning.
Yeah, meditation sessions are amazing with Dana. What are the next steps for the group that presented to us today?
I think that's a me kind of question, so I'll take it. So after the end of the course, there is job hunter support. So we have structured support over the next month, and we have regular sessions even after that for job hunters who are looking to get their first job as a software developer.
Yeah, and on that note, like for the aftercare of the course, it's really well worth learning about that as well when you're in your interview, because it's actually one of the USPs of Makers. I think, you know, we care as much on the course as we do afterwards. You know, we have like technical coaches, they help you with interviews and things like that. So it's a really big part of Makers that we support you after you finish.
And the partnership team is like constantly bringing in companies for lunchtime talks or to career fairs to support that hire, because we really want to land you the first job as a junior software developer.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no open just now. Yeah.
So I think we've answered all of the questions that are open. So if you've got more questions, please ask them.
Yeah. Anything?
Otherwise,
should we give like another minute, and then if not, we can just sign off. Oh, okay. Will there be help with structuring CVs? Yes, yeah, absolutely. There's like a whole team that help you with that and practice for the interviews. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add, like how they go about doing that, or
yes, I can add something to this. So like imagine this cohort, they finished today, and on this following Monday, they'll be enrolled to the Job Hunters channel. They'll be assigned a mentor as well. So one of the two coaches will be with them to help with CVs, cover letters, even sometimes some emotional support as well, because job hunting can be stressful. And they'll be there the whole journey with you, even if that takes you 2 weeks or 2 months or 6 months or 7 months to get a job. You'll have that mentor with you all the time throughout the support. Also, you have access to like technical coaches who can review your coding, and the partnership team is supporting all of this as well, bringing in the companies, as I said before. So there's plenty of support after you finish the course.
Yeah, an enormous amount. Yeah. So the next question, Ed is asking, is there a set criteria for the final project? I noticed a number had similar elements. Is this because this was something that was asked for, or was used as had been learned in the course? Is there an opportunity to use Kotlin, Swift, and make an app-based project? Alex, this is for you.
yep, that's definitely a me kind of question. So the set criteria for the final project is about how you work together as a team and about how you test and develop your code. So there's no set criteria that final projects should be about a certain thing. You'll notice that a couple of the final projects today were games, and both of those teams chose to use 2D RPG style games. That was really their choice. It was an entirely independent choice by those teams. The way that final project ideas come about is the cohort will get together with a coach and will bring all of their ideas to the table. So if you have an idea for an app-based project, you could totally do that. Bring that idea to the cohort, and the ideas will get kind of winnowed down until there's a short list, and then people will pick their preferences from there. It's worth me saying that if you're specifically interested in Kotlin and Swift, you'd probably have to find other people on the course who are also interested in that. It's not guaranteed that you'd be able to make a project based on that. As you saw, the final project teams were between about 4 and 6 people. So if you've got 3 like-minded people in the cohort who also want to build the same sort of thing, you can probably make that happen.
Thank you. Oh, okay. So does both the apprenticeship at Makers and the bootcamp go through the same process? And at the end of the program, do hiring partners come in to employ? So for the both, if you're an apprentice, you will go through the normal bootcamp, but afterwards you'll spend a year with the company or however long. But Inej is probably better to go through this process with me than me, so you can take it from here.
Yeah, so if you're interested on the apprenticeships, it's a different route from the academy. So the process of the academy is what the students just did. They'll apply, they are self-funded, and then they finish and they job hunt. The apprenticeship process is that you can see on our website, like on the apprenticeship page, you can apply there and you'll get in the pool of students that are looking to do an apprenticeship. Then a company comes in and there is a selection of all the students we have on this pool. And if you are selected by us and by the company, you basically start to work for the company doing the course through us. So you get paid from day one of this. This depends as well, the coaches, I'm not sure if the curriculum is exactly the same for the companies, Alex, or if it differs a bit.
So the curriculum definitely differs a bit. And depending on the company and which exact apprenticeship you're going for, you may find that it's quite radically different. For example, we have DevOps apprentices who will do most of the standard software development bootcamp, but who then have a kind of add-on module at the end of about 6 weeks where you learn everything you need to know about DevOps and how to be an infrastructure engineer and help other coders to deploy their apps.
So it's good just to pop salient here that two different paths, two different applications, and if you're looking for any of those in specific, they'll have different routes as well. So look out on the website for that.
Yeah, we also have often, if you go into our LinkedIn, we'll often post what we have available. And we also do have the DFE available right now for the bootcamp. I don't know if Inej, if you want to talk about that as well, that might be.
Yes, so yeah, sorry. The DFE project is basically a partnership that we have with the Department of Education from the government, where we are funding 70 free spaces in our in a course that is basically the same as the academy course. The curriculum is exactly the same. The only thing that differs is that the application process has a couple of changes. You still have to go to Code Academy, Code Wars, and the Codivite, and you still have an interview, but you'll have to fill out a social deprivation form. This is basically a form where we assess, like, what's your highest level of education? Are you full-time employed, part-time, self-employed, unemployed? For how long are you unemployed? For us to make sure that these free spaces are really going to the people that wouldn't be able to afford the course through the normal academy. So yeah, the curriculum is the same throughout the 16 weeks, and you'll be job hunting at the end as well.
Yeah, exactly. And what else was I going to say as well? The deadline has been extended, hasn't it, for that as well?
I'm not sure. The deadline I still have is until the 4th of April, but this is mainly for the cohort that we have for DFE starting in April. Then applications might open again because we have another one in July and another one in October. And those 3 cohorts will all be remote. So good to put out there, we don't have hybrid deliveries for this ones.
Or remote. Perfect. Okay, so another question. How are apprentices selected by partner companies? Is there a separate interview process after joining the makers pool for a specific company? Yeah, so Inej, this is probably for you.
I work with the academy, so I'm not sure how this goes on with the apprenticeship team because we are 2 different teams. But if you provide an email, I can definitely get back to you with the right information on this.
Yeah, I can also pop in just an email of mine, just in case, like, just for more information that I can get on that, just so I can get a clearer answer for you. I'll just pop it in the chat.
I think there's part of a previous question which perhaps we missed, which was about what happens at the end of the program in terms of hiring partners coming in to employ our graduates. And I think the short answer for that one is yes. So hiring partners will come in and do talks, and will join in-person, words are failing me, recruitment sessions where they will give talks, and you'll have an opportunity to chat to some people from the hiring partners, and then you would apply to those, and makers will support that application.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also like with obviously like we have lunch talks, but also I think like we said before, the careers fair is really good for that as well, because you actually, after they present, like they actually have a number of spaces open. It's not just like they're there to like talk about themselves. They're actually actively looking. And I think our last careers fair, which was a couple of weeks ago, was like extremely successful in that. They hired a lot of makers. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities to meet hiring partners that we give you.
I think on the last careers fair we had like 30 something roles available for that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a lot, and it was just 4 or 5 companies in there. And they did have the time for the students to mingle and get to know and do some networking. So it was really useful because you could see like the missing matching with the companies.
Yeah, it was so good. That was a great careers day. Okay, let's just wait 1 more minute, and then if we have no more questions, we'll sign off and let everyone crack on with their weekend.
Yeah.
Careers fair is the words I was looking for, by the way. So thank you for filling in on that.
Yeah, but I'll just say like really do take advantage of these sessions because you can really get good information out of us.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Right.
All right.
I think that's it. Cool.
Fantastic.
Right. Well, thanks guys for helping with the questions, and thanks for all your questions to all the participants. We hope to see you at Code Accelerator or Makers Academy soon.
Or an application.
Or an application. Anywhere.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.